Welcome to the Navic Gaming Podcast, where it is our mission to explore the business and future of video games. We bring together the industry's brightest builders, investors, and thinkers to keep a pulse on current events, dissect emerging trends in games, share lessons learned, and have a great time. This podcast is also part of Navic's growing ecosystem, which ranges from free and premium research to consulting and advisory services. For more information, visit www.navic.co. This episode is brought to you by Heroic Labs, which powers some of the world's biggest games with its Heroic game stack. Its composable products are Nakama, the open source backend game server, Hero, the game development framework for all your live service game features, including the complexity of managing offline mode, Satori, the world-class live ops product for maximizing monetization and retention, and lastly, the Heroic Cloud to provide massive scalability. After nearly 10 years of operation, thousands of studios trust Heroic Labs to help them focus on their games and not worry about game tech or scaling for success. To learn more and reach out, make sure to visit heroiclabs.com or check out the link in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by Neon. For the first time in our industry, developers can finally have their own D2C channels to save on App Store fees and build closer relationships with players. But there's a catch. Selling direct means either building complex infrastructure yourself or choosing among legacy providers whose inexperience in games or questionable reputations pose real risk to your business. Luckily, there's Neon, the D2C platform built for games. As a merchant of record with customizable web shops optimized for conversion and modern APIs that let you use your existing LiveOps tools, Neon is trusted by some of the biggest names in gaming to help you sell direct without the typical overhead. To start selling direct and finally take control over your full player experience, simply head to neonpay.com or check out the link in the show notes. And with that, let's jump into the episode.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Devin Becker, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Nicolas Vizioli, founder of Lemonade. Lemonade is an AI coding platform built specifically for Roblox game creation. And today we're going to discuss the intersection of AI and UGC development for the biggest platform, Roblox. So just to start things off, can you give us a quick overview of your background and the origins of Lemonade, Nicolas?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Devin. My background comes from gaming since I was a kid. I did Minecraft servers very, very young. I had the servers I built servers mostly for my friends back when I was 12. And the servers that I built started growing, getting spread between my school. And then I quickly realized that I could start making money with these Minecraft servers that I had. And then that's when I got red pilled into the UGC gaming industry and kept doing Minecraft servers for many, many years. Eventually had one of the largest servers in Latin America. We had a few thousand concurrent users. Worked after that with Alex from Vodex Games. They're now the largest Roblox startup. And before Roblox, they actually started with Minecraft servers as well. So I helped Alex for a few years and was building those games on Minecraft. And after that, I just moved it to this big gaming company called Wildlife Studios. I joined it as a PM intern, worked in a few games inside of the company. And then I moved it to Europe to work in a new UGC gaming app that was trying to actually compete with Roblox. It was called Soba. Raised a good seed round at that point. That was 2022. And yeah, I just learned a lot about the platform angle. I was serving creators and was a creator myself as well for 10 years. So that's when I started getting a lot of these ideas of what to do next. And that's how it connects to the vision that we have right now for building on top of Roblox.
Nice. So, to get into a little bit of detail, how does Lemonade specifically work with Roblox? And what does the overall workflow look like? Yeah,
so we are a coding agent connected to Roblox Studio. So we know that all this, there's a whole generation of kids that are just starting to get their feet wet. They never could make games before. They always saw like these dream game ideas. They always wanted to do that. And making games was just incredibly hard, right? And that's what we're helping right now. So we're helping those kids make their first games. And that's the very first product that we have.
So why are you targeting coding specifically for Roblox as opposed to like the other parts of the UGC game creation?
Yeah. When you analyze all the creative outlet that there is involved to making a game, you can see like you have to do in the past you had to like mess up doing UI creation. So you had to build the UI, you had to do game design, you had to do the map building, the 3D asset generation. And then you had also like this beast that was coding, and it's just extremely complicated to learn, and you had all this friction to go through it. And yeah, when we started like thinking about what the piece inside of game development we wanted to tackle first, so like being very narrowly focused, making sure that we take a space and we really nail it, coding was very obvious. And I think like in the very beginning of the company as well, we were exploring this idea maze on top of Roblox. We were realizing that a lot of those kids that make Roblox games, that were making Roblox games after AI started like getting more important, they were using ChatGPT, and they were going to ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT to like, hey, make me a script. They were copy and pasting this script inside of Roblox Studio manually, and they were doing this process like hundreds of times. So like as we were interviewing these users, we could see like this pattern repeating and repeating over and over. And that was early 2025. And then it became very obvious for us that like, okay, coding is already a very evident use case. It's definitely one of the hardest things in the entire like pipeline of making games. And was just like, okay, let's jump in, let's try to nail this space first. And right now we're slowly starting to expand into other areas like UI development, UI generation. That's very interesting to us as well. And if you look into Roblox, for example, 50% more or less of many games are purely UI. It's just like the 2D UI. You join the game, you see an inventory UI, you see a setting UI, a leaderboard, and using like AI to code these UIs right now programmatically, they do a good job, but like the visuals are not there yet. Like it's quite sloppy, right? And that's like another space that we're slowly starting to expand from coding right now is like UI generation. But like we're being very, very focused to nail those spaces first and expanding from there.
That seems like a good expansion from there, just because obviously the UI is what drives a lot of the interactivity in these games, and therefore like the actual code. So having those two tied together seems like a good way to make sure that things make sense, especially for a lot of these game developers that are younger may not have a lot of experience doing UI. So like that seems like a pretty natural expansion from there. Overall, though, like how does Lemonade sort of compete with what Roblox is already providing?
Yeah, so that comes precisely on the defensibility side that we are focusing right now. Like we have a very intentional core audience that we're focused on. Like for us, it's really important to target this first time developers. And you can imagine that Roblox is like this huge company. Even though they have these initiatives like to do the Roblox Assistant, they're now launching the Roblox MCP integrations. They have to be very agnostic actually with the audience that they're serving. So they're like trying to help kids turn developers, trying to help like developers that already exist in the platform to build even better games. And I think for us, like a lot of it comes to like being very intentional to the audience that we're serving. Again, first time developers, making sure that the installation process is extremely easy for them. So the way to install our coding agent right now in Roblox is simply like a plugin inside of Roblox Studio. You go in the marketplace and you're like few clicks away, and then you use the interface in the web. It's a website. And then we have like all these initiatives focus on product development, and UI is one of them. Like we recently built this feature that you can build like UI just by prompting. So similar to like startups like Lovable, V0, you could go to the website, you prompt, you see the UI in the website, and you can interact with the UI from within the website. And that's something we launched recently. So like we have all this like differentiability, like trying to differentiate ourselves by building like product that's very unique to us, and that's not going to be easily replicated using Cloud Code or Codex or any integration that you have. Um, there's actually like an interesting topic here. Like for us, we've seen like this the paradigm of coding agents changing a lot over the last year. So like it was relatively complicated to build a coding engine like beginning of last year, middle of last year, and right now it's actually fairly like fairly easy to like do an agent, do the loop, and play around with agents yourself. So for us, like we think coding agents are getting super commoditized, and a lot of the defensibility is actually going to come through like these product features that are very like that have this layer of like word of mouth being very intentional. Like how do we really surprise users after they use this feature, so they tell their friends and we gain distribution after that. And also like focusing a lot on branding and this modes that we think are durable. But like coding agents actually, especially intelligent, is not our focus. Definitely, I'm happy to share more about this. I have a lot of thoughts, but like, it's definitely not what we're thinking right now.
Nice. Oh, definitely stuff you've thought about for the future there, as obviously Roblox is going to be trying to expand that themselves. So it sounds like you guys are maybe a little more focused on user experience than they are, perhaps, which
Yeah,
is good for given the audience, right? Like, but I mean, kids are very smart. They're, their brains are still growing, but they also like may lack a lot of experience that game developers will have. So it's a little bit different audience. Whereas Roblox's tools will be interesting to see if they gear a little bit more towards some of those game developers moving into the space as opposed to their specific like younger audience. So I'm really curious to see how that expands. But I am also curious, how are you making sure that Lemonade understands Roblox, like that it stays current with the documents stuff? Like, do you feed it the docs that Roblox provides? Do you actually like give it extra bits of information that like how do you make sure that it understands Roblox?
yeah. We have all these layers of knowledge specific to Roblox embedded inside of our tool behind the scenes. So the developers, and that's particularly good again for like these first time developers, because they don't have actually the time to go to Cloud Code and be building their own like skills of knowledge. So that takes time, right? So for us, like we handle all of that, and we had this like since last year. And one thing that's important to realize as well, like it's one of the like realizations we had recently, is like you don't want to be competing with intelligence when it comes to this coding agent layer, because like every single time you have to like work on the model harness, you have to improve your tool, you're going to be working on like marginal improvements, like maybe you improve the agent 5% here, 10% there, and in the end is like it's marginal, right? And once the next model, like the next release comes from the labs, they usually like eat all this improvement that you had. So for us, we're trying to be like very intentional to actually leave our bottleneck to be intelligence. So yes, we do the basics, like in terms of Roblox knowledge, we already covered that. Like how does the models get even better? We don't do much work here to like improve the harness aside from the foundation we already built. And we're much more interested in, again, building this product experiences that are domain specific to Roblox, that other coding agents are not going to deliver simply because they don't focus on Roblox. It's like Cloud Code, like Roblox is such a small market for them. And through that, we can like develop a better experience for the audience that we're targeting. So like for first time developers, how do we teach them what a core loop is, right? So you imagine a kid joining the platform, like they don't even know what game design is. So we have to like retain them. We have to make sure that they have guardrails around their first prompts, so that what they're building actually connect and ties to the pieces, the mechanics that they're doing sequentially. And all these like tiny details, yeah, around the experience, and not so much on the intelligence layer. I think that we're yeah, that's the operational level we have right now.
Interesting. I'm curious too, like both how sort of model agnostic you are, and like whether or not you kind of have to lock it to specific models, meaning like, hey, if a new model comes out, you got to test it first and stuff like that. But also, I'm kind of curious about what you said around these people maybe not understanding game design and stuff. And I'm thinking like, oh, like a new user, how are they going to prompt this? How do they know what to prompt? Do you provide any guidance, or like how do you help people get the prompt ball rolling, especially for kids that are new to this? Obviously, there's kids that are going to be like, oh, I use AI all the time for school and things like that. But then there's people who are like, I don't know how to prompt. It's like this art science kind of you just blank white page sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. This is one of the hardest and most like complex things we're having right now, is like dealing with this user intent coming from kids, coming from young teenagers that don't even know how to articulate what they have in mind. So we have like this whole layer of like agents and routers behind the scenes that like try to deconstruct what is the meaning of the user. Like when they say that they want to build a game, let's say like they have their favorite games like Grow a Garden, for example. So like when they prompt a mechanic that like, oh, I'm trying to build a farm mechanic, and we have this layer, we understand like that their favorite game is already Grow a Garden, because we do have an integration with Roblox and we can pull the data to see what are the user favorite games. Then we start to collect like this data around user intent that helps us understand what the user is trying to build, even if they don't express with the right words what they're trying to like exactly make, right? And yeah, we're being like that's one of the biggest challenges we have right now, is just like decompressing and deconstructing user intent and making sure we collect a lot of data points that are external to the prompting layer, so we help the user like get to the dream game they want to build. And in terms of models, like we're being 100% agnostic right now. So we build our own eval pipeline and eval tests under the hood. And every time like a new model drops, like yesterday, Opus 4.7 just launched, like we run the eval immediately. Like we measure, we have like specific tasks for Roblox. So we know like, oh, make me a punch mechanic. And then we have an agent that joins the Roblox studio. It tries the mechanic, and we see like whether the mechanic works or not. So we have many tests like that, and then we can measure like performance across different models and very fast see which one is good for each kind of like different space, like which is better for physics, UI, and then we just provide this to users. Like we're very like agnostic to the models we serve, as long as they're good to the user.
Nice. Well, I mean, that makes sense considering like you never know these days. You have like, for example, what happened with OpenClaw and Claude, where suddenly Claude is like, hey, no, you can't use OpenClaw anymore. And that was like the main platform, model that it was using. So obviously there's a situation like, that potentially they could just be like, sorry, like you can't use Claude anymore. And so it's good that you have these other tests running, because it does seem like building on top of models is always a little bit risky in the current world, and being agnostic definitely helps. So having the evals seems like a smart way to like always be looking out. So like, for example, if Gemini suddenly was better, or if Codex was suddenly better, you'd be able to switch pretty quickly because you'd have the evals kind of tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. We can see high level, like what are the models that are doing better at each different time. This is actually like a strategy very similar to Cursor. Like if you look into the Cursor, the way that they operate since the very beginning of the company, it took them a long time to start like doing post-training experiments, and they were just like providing what was state of the art from the labs, right? So they were giving like Sonnet, Opus when it launched, like Gemini, like all these models, all these different models that the user could select themselves. And only now they started like experimenting with post-training. And it's funny because it's like a very specific layer of models is like the cheaper version, given that the AI labs like they're leaning towards like pushing the frontier and not actually like not shipping or dropping so many like expensive and cheaper models anymore. So for Cursor, it's good for them to like post-train a cheap model, still intelligent, versus competing with like the frontier that the labs already provide very well. And for us, it's the same thing. Like we're not experimenting with post-training our own Roblox coding model yet, even though we have a lot of data and we like have the data label and yeah, it's always interesting to think like when you start collecting this data, how you can like make sure you have the entire trajectory of the data you're collecting, because that's like this raw data. It's the most valuable piece of data you can have, and after that, you can have like humans annotating the data, and you can do all these experiments on top of it. So yeah, that's the way we think right now. Is like not doing post training yet. We want to intentionally have intelligence as our bottleneck because the models are going to keep getting better here. And as long as we have a very strong foundation of evals under the hood, we're going to be good because then we can flip the models very fast and just make sure we're providing the best experience and like whatever works best right now for the users.
When talking about the users, I understand you have quite a number of users already. You run game jams for this and things like that. What are some of the more noteworthy results that some of the people have made, like some of the things maybe from the game jams or anything that ideally stuff that surprised you that people were able to pull off or that helped maybe even shape the direction that you took?
Yeah, we started building this a year ago, and the beginning was very like 0 to 1, doing things that don't scale. So it was like very manual outreach and growing few hundred users every month. And we saw a spike coming a few months after in August. So that's when we got like our first few thousand users. And after that, like because we were pretty much the first agent on top of Roblox to make Roblox games, the growth was vertical. So like we have been growing very steadily. We right now we have um, almost 100,000 monthly active creators actually, and yeah, like it's very fulfilling for me to see like all these kids turning creators, being able to like finally have these dream games and turn them into reality. And for some of them, which is actually our mission in the company, like the reason we call ourselves Lemonade is because we want to help teenagers make their first dollar online. So we're trying to build like the Lemonade stand for the next generation. We think Roblox is the best place to get started right now. It's like massive, too many users. And we do have users right now that are already making money with the games that they build with Lemonade. Like last month, we had a user that built a game and made over $20,000. So like it was like a complete first time developer. Like the user never built a game before, was completely done using AI. And yeah, this shows like the potential. Of course, like this is like the long tail. It's the extreme example, but it does show the potential of focusing and like you don't need to. Yeah, like AI is expanding all this the things that were complex before, like designing, doing UI, as I said before. Like a single person can do that right now. So as long as you have the free time and you have the curiosity to explore, there's a lot of yield to collect from doing that on Roblox right now.
I guess it's kind of helping people sort of accomplish what Roblox's sort of mission was to enable kids to be able to sort of make money off of games and make games and things like that. And now enabling that a little bit easier, I think, for some people that were kind of scared off by the coding side of things. I'm kind of curious though, like, we're talking about 0 to 1 and things like that, sort of working from scratch. How well does this sort of platform work with, like, let's say I already had a game, or let's say I just bought a game from someone. I'm like, I don't want to read through all that code and try and understand it. Could I use this with an existing project? Is it going to be able to at least understand enough of the code to be able to make modifications, things like that?
Yeah, even though we focus on, again, first time developers, you're able to connect like any existing game from Roblox into Lemonade. So like you can do that for sure. Like you can do live ops. We have users that have been working on their games for many weeks already. So that's possible. And yeah, it's just like for us, it's not the audience that we're focused on right now, but it is something that you can have your code base and connect and like keep making a game from there.
The live ops part sounds kind of interesting, especially like I just thinking of, obviously that's a new concept for a lot of the young developers, and the idea of like, hey, I want to keep this going long tail. I need to actually like update my game. Maybe they don't think of it as live ops. There's like updates. People want updates. So it's really interesting that it can help enable that, because that's something that can be difficult, especially for newer developers. So definitely interesting there. In general, though, like what are some different ways? I mean, live ops was a great example that you see AI fitting into like UGC development, not just in Roblox, but just across game development, because this is something that I think is going to matter to this current generation coming up. More so, like obviously we've had our generations of UGC and mods and things like that. This definitely seems like a time when, especially with AI enabled stuff like you guys are building, that this is like a big opportunity. So how do you see that across the whole sort of UGC game development ecosystem when it comes to AI?
We see like AI coming pretty much in all the fronts in terms of like everything you can do in gaming. So you can do like the asset generation, the sound generation, the map building as well. One of the reasons like we decided not to touch map building early on was because we saw the Roblox actually like doing an extremely good job here. Like they have this own internal model that's open source called Cube 3D. And yeah, they have been focusing on that, doing a super good job there. And it's coming out different fronts, to be fair. I think like one of the coolest ones we have been seeing is like on Roblox specifically. If you open their website and you go to see the games in the homepage, most of the thumbnails there are AI generated already. So like you see those kids like it's at the very top of the funnel. It's like the very first impression that you have of a game, the thumbnail, and even the game name for sure. Like a lot of kids are using that to like refine their game name, like making sure it has the best hook. So it's coming every single front. And yeah, it's super. I'm actually like very curious about the things that are gonna be explored from now on. Like there's a couple of areas that I feel are underserved still. One of them is like AI first games on top of Roblox. Like that's not super evident yet. So like that does feel like an underexplored space. Like we don't see that many games using AI chatbots or like any kind of AI visual generation on top of Roblox. And that's an area that I think like there's, yeah, again, an opportunity to explore. And something that I'm also like very curious and we think very actively about this for Lemonade is how do we solve user liquidity? So in terms of when you think about the desire that someone has to make a game, it's often one of the biggest desires is definitely like the social recognition, the social status that comes from building your own creation. Roblox does that super well because they push the algorithm. The discoverability is very sharp to get players in front of your game if the game is minimally good. But for people that perhaps want to make like a multiplayer experience and need like user liquidity, people online, I think those like AI characters they're going to start like becoming extremely good to the point like they resemble actually a real human, and you do have the same feeling of like you're playing a game with an extremely intelligent agent that does give you the feeling that like he's your buddy for real and he knows the entire game like end to end. And I know Roblox like is exploring some side of that internally, but like that's one things that one of the spaces that we have on Lemonade that perhaps we can build games that come with bots, like those intelligent characters attached to the game itself, and then we're like helping users, helping creators not only with the creation part, but also with this feeling like they want to have like liquidity, user liquidity. They want to have the social like character with you through like the user journey. And yeah, that's another thing that's super interesting to me.
Nice. Well, I think we'll definitely see a lot of that happen, probably faster than we expect. But I am kind of curious, since you've been doing this for a little bit in terms of building this out, how have you seen AI coding specifically for game development evolve during this time that you've been working at? Because I don't know exactly when you started, but I imagine when you started, it was pretty different than how it is now, just with how rapidly things have changed for coding, especially. Like I heard a lot of people, saying that like before December last year, coding was one way, and then after it's like worlds different. I mean, have you seen like a lot of evolution? Like what have you seen kind of, especially for game development? Because I know that's usually talking app development, but I think game development's a little bit different.
Yeah. On our field, like coding agents, which is again is like it's connected to game development because of the programming side. I think we recoded our architecture over 5 times over the last year alone. So we have been doing that all the time, and we can we can very clearly see that the paradigm is changing like every 3 months, and we have to keep adapting. So one of the the things that's happening, like we were just discussing this internally this week, is that this like flow of like you plan your task first and then you deconstruct the task into many smaller pieces. So you have like a separate agent to planning, and then you have another agent to executing. This flow is actually starting to like vanish right now, because like with the model capabilities we have, that they can do like long horizon tasks better, they're more intelligent. You kind of like don't need a planner agent anymore. You're able to put like the planner inside of the executor and like actually share the entire context with a single agent. And it's funny to realize this, because like that was literally like the paradigm for the past year and a half, 2 years. Like everybody had plans, like the planner steps. And one of the bets we have is like this is gonna start to converge again. Like before you had to separate context, and now it's starting to converge back to like consolidating context in a single agent. And it's very like it's fun and at the same time chaotic to be working with this, because we have to keep like adding new layers on top of our technology. And in parallel, we have to like keep sculpting and taking things out at the same time. So yeah, that's one of the observations we have. It's like very, very chaotic to be working with it right now. But if you're in, yeah, if you want to keep like building the agent, the best agent possible, you have to keep like refining it all the time. And that's why we did like recoded up the agent we have so many times already.
Interesting. And I mean, talking about this whole planning paradigm and things like that, I'm kind of curious. One of the things we've seen, especially trend for a while, is this idea of using markdown files to keep memory, as opposed to say that database or something like that. OpenCloud is big about that. Claude Code is big about that. Is that something you guys are leveraging as well to kind of keep track of things, to remember stuff? Obviously, like keeping things, everything in context is kind of expensive to do. So, like, are you guys architecting similar, like, to file markdown stuff, or?
Yeah, we have a similar architecture. This is actually an area that we want to put more time on right now. But yeah, we do have like this memory bank that the project of the user is like deconstructed, and we have all the information inside of like different areas of the project, and the agent can like pull this information selectively as it's doing the generation. So this is too good to do, and again, with like context windows from models, for example, getting much larger and more performatic, you don't have to be spreading like all your context within like dozens of files anymore as happened in the past. We're seeing the same thing that I just said. Like we're seeing like the context converging to fewer places, and then the agent is able to pull the context from fewer places right now. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, I imagine we'll see that evolve. Somehow there'll be a completely new paradigm or some other way of doing memory management and context in the future, especially since the context stuff tends to lead to higher costs despite the window increases. So interesting to see. I'm curious though, like most of the time when you see talk about vibe coding or AI coding, it's very app focused. I'm curious what you've seen different about game development specifically, because a lot of people talk about coding game development, very vaguely. You don't see a lot of details. What have you seen that's like really different about it?
Yeah, I think if you like looking at the fundamentals behind like vibe coding an app and vibe coding a game, I think like both of them have different purposes. At least that's the thing that comes top of mind. Like if you're trying to vibe code an app, it's very likely that the app has a specific utility that you want to get out of using it. It could be like a financial app that you just want to like check your savings, for example. So like you have this final goal that's very specific, very clear, and you just want to get there. Versus in contrast with gaming, I think the experience is like the entertainment is the goal, right? Like you're playing something and you're either like trying to escape like reality and just like get your time sucked inside of the game. You know that very well, like with the game design tricks. Or you're like trying to like socialize, like how do you re-engage with your friends, or how you meet new friends online. So there's like these different purposes behind games. And also in the action as a creator, the goal of games, and that's something that we're doing internally, like we have this core principle that we don't try to one-shot games, like zero shot. We see all these like AI game platforms that they try to go like from prompt to game in like 5 minutes. And that for us is not fun, actually. Like if you understand what a game actually is, the joy comes from the process, right? Like you're iteratively building mechanic by mechanic, and the process is the fun. It's not like the final product. And also like games, you could have like this final piece kind of in your mind, and you can imagine how the game is going to look like. But the process of making a game is also very fractal. So like as you build it, new things start emerging, new ideas start taking shape, and I think that's the joy. Like for us, we're being very intentional. Like if someone goes to Lemonade right now and try to prompt, make me steal a brain rot. If they literally prompt that, we don't let the user generate anything. Like we return like some options to the user, like, hey, these are mechanics that exist inside of steal a brain rot. Which one do you want to start first, right? So we have this guardrails to make sure that we keep the process as the main thing, as the main joy, and just allowing the user to build from there. That's something that we think about a lot.
Well, then you definitely bring up something that's really important. I think it's the one-shotting versus the iterative process, right? Game development is extremely iterative. As much as people would love to just like plan and just produce straight through, that's not really how games work, right? Whereas apps generally can a bit, right? You have your spec, you're producing it. You can maybe iterate a bit, but usually that's at the end when you're adding features as opposed to tuning, tweaking, iterating. How are you guys supporting that iterating process? Like you mentioned a little bit of it. I'm really curious how that works, that iterative loop, because let's say I tell it what I want, I get it, and I test it. Is the tool then like trying to be like, hey, how did that work? What do you want to change? Or is it more like just whatever you want to do next? Do you want to add something? I'm curious how you're sort of guiding or supporting that iterative process differently than like something like Claude Code would be doing.
Yeah. High level for us, like we're trying to understand all the abstractions that are required to make a game. And then we have these agents that like build these abstractions, like they kind of like help the user get there. Again, our focus right now is just coding and UI, but we are going to expand to other areas. Like we are going to expand to asset generation, to sound generation. These things are definitely in the plans. And also we have like all these capabilities for a single person to build a full game alone. Then I think for us is like just becomes understanding the user intent. So like making sure we have the intent of the user, like the final goal or like the thing that they had in mind when they started prompting, kind of like have this in place and help placing guardrails through this journey so the user gets there. So they don't like derail and start making something completely different than what they wanted initially. And out of the sudden they have a Frankenstein. And when they see, they cannot like even publish the game, right? So even though it could be a fun experience for the creator, I think for us, it's really, really important to help them finish and publish. So we have like specifically on the product, we have a few guardrails to like when we build a mechanic, we send back to the user like, hey, are you happy with this mechanic? Or do you want to add it or refine it? And then the user kind of like a human in the loop step that the user has to review what they just did. We also have like something that we're working internally now is like, how do we have all these core loop architectures and how do we make sure that as the user builds the game iteratively, we can recommend mechanics coming next that tie to the core loop or perhaps like just the mechanic sequence that the user is building so far. So we can finally like close a loop and help them build something that's playable. That's another thing that we're doing to keep the guardrails and keep helping the user get to a final game. That's partially like that's a few ways that we think about it.
Interesting. Yeah, like it's just really interesting the harness parts that are not just the coding, right? The parts that are like helping users go through this game development process and sort of learn it. Eventually, it becomes like a mentor as well, right? Like where you're almost like working with a mentor to develop a game and go through the process. And the nice thing, I suppose, is you can also then implement like best practices and other things that sort of help them better do a good job. Like you said, trying to help them finish the game or stop them from just going on all these tangents. Like that's a scope creep, right? It's always a problem for game development. So anything you can do to help nip that in the bud early seems like a good idea.
Yeah. Something that we're really interested as well is how do we help those users monetize the games? Again, in the mission that we have as a company, helping those creators earn their first dollar online, Roblox is an extremely healthy ecosystem to do that, honestly. So as long as you have something fairly unique and you put like this granular taste, like you build the game in a very novel way, Roblox is gonna, like, the algorithm is gonna help you find players for your game for free. Like, you don't even have to spend anything. And that's very, very distinct from the gaming industry itself. You don't find this like super easy on Steam. Like, if you want to crack growth in Steam, you have to do like all this like wish list growth hacks, and it's like completely different. Even if I come back to my time, which was on Minecraft, you had to like find the server IP, and then you had to like put that in the server list. So discoverability was very a huge pain, and that layer, like, Roblox really, really nails it. So with this solved, how do we help the users finish and actually make money with the games? And there's a lot of strategies here. Like, as the user is finishing the game, how can we help them add perks to their games? How can they sell like in-app purchases, subscriptions, and all these things that we can have an agent that is like there almost as a buddy for the user, and yeah, helping them like achieve these goals, and ultimately just being very fulfilling for us. That's how we started, like making money online through gaming, and that's what we want to do with more kids right now.
Awesome. Well, hopefully it has that effect, as Roblox in general seems to have done quite a bit of that. I am curious though, like just recently, even like you mentioned, the AI thumbnails and things like that. What do you think overall the impact has been on Roblox from AI? Not just Lemonade, but just AI in general, but also what you've seen from Lemonade. Like, what is it? What is it? I mean, is it taking over Roblox in general? Is it like really growing the amount of games on there? Like, what has the impact been?
On the Roblox side, like, what we observe externally is that it's very clear that one of the priorities of the company is safety. So that's one area that they're heavily using AI, and they're fairly like doing well with the moderation, especially as the models are getting cheaper and like open source right now, which is like you can run your own model, and Roblox is doing that. Thumbnails, I think it's an area that I do want to double down. Like, you, again, connected to discoverability, the main piece to get your game discovered is having a great thumbnail, is having like a great game description. So that's how the algorithm can pick your game besides the game metrics. And yeah, if like by simply opening like the homepage on Roblox right now, you're gonna see like a bunch of AI generated thumbnails or some flavor of it. Like, I still think there's a mix that you need to put like taste of like a real human on top of the thumbnail. Like, there's a lot of thumbnails that have like manual, you draw everything manually. But thumbnails is definitely like a way that's very present right now in the platform. And in terms of Lemonade, we have like dozens of thousands of games published using our tool already. And the thing that we are like exploring right now is actually like back to the product parts that we were discussing. Like, how do we make sure that the user finishes a core loop? How does the user has a gameplay that's a bit more connected, right? Like, so it really gives a real chance for that game to work out. And that's like one of the things that we're working next and are super excited about.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to see like the impact. I mean, obviously, not everyone's a fan of AI in general, but I think if it can enable people to join game development, like I know we've had these sort of indie moments before in the past, but they've always been kind of difficult for people. It was always an audience that was very kind of small and really dedicated. And opening this up obviously is not going to be good for everyone. We're going to end up with a mix of quality of things here, but I think overall, like, generational benefit will be good. We'll see if Roblox still ends up being the platform of choice for that forever. But what do you think overall the sort of future for AI UGC game development looks like? And I mean, even keeping in mind, who knows if GTA 6 will have modding stuff or whatever, like the intersection of AI and UGC in general, what do you think that looks like over the next few years in terms of where we go from here?
Yeah, our opinion is very, I think like we were very opinionated when we started building what we have right now. For us, we think Roblox is going to keep being a power law in gaming. So we think that we saw this last year already, like all the success and like Roblox getting back to the spotlight. But I think they're doing like a few things that do feed more advantage to them. Back to like this discoverability thing, like being able to publish a game and have actual users trying it, that's rare. Like it's not super easy to find distribution purely relying in the algorithm, so you don't have to spend much time like doing marketing and all of that. So that's very rare and unique for Roblox. We like the way that they're like planning their roadmap and things like related to that as well. It's important that the platform has this possibility of success through making real money. So they have the Robux, this economy inside of it. So all these things like aligned really make us believe that Roblox is going to keep consolidating, and that's partially right why like we don't really look so much into other UGC gaming platforms. There was a lot of like hype around UFN, and I think they should have so much to prove themselves. And even like GTA 6, like let's see what UGC comes out of the game. We are excited and we want to see what they have. But right now, like all of our eyes and like all of our focus is going to Roblox, and we are really betting that it's going to keep growing. And in terms of the technology, like for AI that we're really excited for game development, I think it comes back to the points I said before. So like user liquidity, if you understand why someone is making a game, there's a few like human desires connected to, like the social recognition, social status is definitely one of the largest ones. So if someone is able to fix user liquidity inherently as the platform, that's a very interesting play. And AI first games, again, it's something that is still unexplored, especially on Roblox. So that there is a lot of opportunities to exploring AI first content, and I think we're going to start seeing more of this come out through the year. And just like the fundamentals, like nailing distribution, is something important for the platform. And yeah, I think like that those are some thoughts that come top of mind.
So I'm curious then, like having seen all this progress and the things that have worked out well and the direction things are going, what do you think's missing or really needs improvement just in game development using AI like that, at least from your perspective of what Lemonade does, that maybe is either lacking in attention or just not quite there yet, especially in an area like that maybe it's just been problematic to deal with?
It's funny to think about this because it's like I think a lot of the areas are like literally improving so fast and like having this substantial improvements. So we're benefiting from like different tailwinds coming to us. I think like the thing that comes to mind is like map building. I should think a lot of it's very hard to build a map in granular detail through a text prompt. You imagine like you have to say the position in the axis like of which object you want to be, and then you have to detail each object. So I don't think like the chat interface is super fluid to doing map generation. And I think that's an area that's going to be fun to watch. Like how do you build like these complex maps, and how do you keep the taste? It's possibly it's going to be the same as game development. Like you're going to have to keep iterating many times until you get to the state that you want. It's not going to be something that you're zero shot and you're extremely happy and that was your dream thing. So definitely, I think like this positioning of objects within a 3D map slash simulation, that's very interesting. And I think that's one of the reasons like word models are in the spotlight more, because they have like a different procedural, like the way that they generate everything is different than the LLMs per se. So that's definitely an area that I think there is a stronger bottleneck that we're keeping closer look at right now.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if there ends up being like a sort of like the Chat GPT equivalent of a world model that you can just use as a model to build things. Because it doesn't seem like there's, it's mostly these sort of tech demo kind of things coming out. There's not some sort of thing you can just use via the cloud or download to just build spatial things. So that is an interesting problem. Yeah, building a game through text is kind of a weird idea. Although people tend to do that with game design documents in a way, right? But then once you actually have to rubber hits the road and you actually have to have something that's playable in 3D, that does seem like kind of a weird way to go about it. I have seen like some attempts for like Unity plugins and stuff to try and sort of populate things with like assets. But as you said, that fine grained detail, sort of playability, all those things need a certain amount of spatial conception that maybe might not be like existent in those sorts of things. So that's an interesting approach. Well, just a couple last questions, and it's real quick to just finish things off. Just two quick questions. First off, favorite Roblox game?
I'm not going to go with the mainstream ones. There's one that I play quite often. It's called Tank Game. It's like similar to a Gario. You have to grind and like you have your character. It gets bigger as you kill other players. I think that's a fun one and has gotten my attention for quite a long time.
Nice. What's the biggest issue you've seen in Roblox game development?
I think for us, connected to our audiences is still understanding what the audience means. As we said before, like they don't know how to prompt well, and we have to do like all this work behind the scenes to like understand user intent when they prompt like, oh, make me a single game, no mistakes, right? So we have to do like we have to understand again and like put them back in the guardrails and like, hey, the joy is not like one-shotting this, like let's go here step by step and we're actually going to help you finish, but you have to keep with us. So I think like the biggest problem is like, how do you get the user through this finish line? And at the same time, how does the user like doesn't derail and end up building like a Frankenstein and never finishing what they wanted initially? So all this like connecting all these pieces and making sure the experience is very, very tight during the process has been the biggest challenge, but as well like the most creative thing for us. Like we come as game developers, we love doing this, and it's been a lot of fun working to solve this problem for like teenagers to build their first games.
I'm sure it makes you think of game development differently when you have to kind of think of it from this perspective of how do I explain game development to someone else as opposed to just doing it myself. So it's an interesting perspective, I imagine. Where can people find some of these games that have been made with Lemonade? Is it on the website? Do people need to join the Discord? Is there something you can search for in Roblox? What's the best way people to kind of experience some of the things that have been built out of Lemonade?
So I think the best place for people to find us is definitely on Discord. We share all the games that have been built using our tool there. It's discord.gg/lemonade. And yeah, it's growing a lot, over 50,000 members. And that's where we are most active as well. So like I definitely read all DMs there, and probably the best place to contact me as well.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining. I'm really excited about this project in general because I think it's really cool to see something that empowers people to at least experience game development, even if they don't decide to do it for a career. I think it's a good way to get something hands-on and actually experience. I'm looking forward to the day when we have game development classes using this kind of stuff and whatever in schools and whatever. So everyone gets to give it a try. Maybe Lemonade will be part of that. We'll see. But thanks so much for taking the time today. I appreciate it, Nicolas.
Thanks for having me, Devin.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and make sure to go check it out, Lemonade at lemonade.gg, and of course the Discord you mentioned. Lots of cool stuff happening there. Always in motion, I imagine. And make sure you're checking out, of course, Naavik Digest, and we also now have some new stuff around AI and gaming. So make sure you check that out. It just came out this last week, so make sure that you're up on that on Substack and everything else. And in the meantime, catch you guys on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, whether on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, or give a 5-star review. And if you want to reach out or provide feedback, shoot us a note at podcast@naavik.co or find us on Twitter and LinkedIn. Plus, if you want to learn more about what Naavik has to offer, make sure to check out our website, www.naavik.co. There, you can sign up for the #1 games industry newsletter, Naavik Digest, or contact us to learn about our wide-ranging consulting and advisory services. Again, that is www.naavik.co. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.